So for today's video, I'm going to demonstrate how to add a crocheted bobble into your knitting. And so I went ahead and just started a little swatch here, and we're going to add a couple crocheted bobbles to this swatch. So the first step is to knit along until you want to add your bobble. And so we'll just go ahead and add one right here. And so I'm going to grab my crochet hook, and at this point in time I'll just mention the size of the crochet hook doesn't necessarily matter too much. In this case mine's actually a little bit smaller than my knitting needle, but not by too much. You can go a lot smaller. I wouldn't go too much larger unless you really want large bobbles. But basically the size of the bobble will reflect the size of the hook, unless you go smaller, and remember to keep your tension really loose. And so I'm going to go ahead and add my bobble to this next stitch right here. So I'm actually going to slide my knitting stitch onto my crochet hook just like that, and I'm going to let go of my knitting needles. At this point in time, I'm gonna just say you may want to think about using a knitting needle that's got enough grip to hold your stitches, because it would be a little disappointing to work your crocheted bobble just to find that you've lost a stitch or two. So now I'm going to go ahead and start my crochet bobble. So you'll start by pulling a stitch through and onto the crochet hook, and then wrap and pull through. So now you have 3 stitches on your crochet hook, and we'll go ahead and wrap and pull through a second time for 5 stitches on the crochet hook, and then one last time for 7 stitches onto the crochet hook. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Hi, Izzy. And now you're going to go ahead and wrap and then pull through all 7 of those stitches. Now this may take a couple of passes through, and that is going to be just fine. But once you get all the way through, you'll just have the 1 stitch on that crochet hook right there, and you'll pull a stitch through just like that to cinch it together. And then you're going to look for the stitch below the one that you're currently working in. So that's this one that my thumb is right next to right here. So then you're going to go enter that stitch there, pull through so that you have 2 stitches right there, and then pull through one last time, similar to a single crochet stitch. And then you can transfer the stitch onto the right hand needle, and let's take a look at our little bobble. And so we've got a cute little bobble right there now, and I'm just going to knit and then add another bobble further along. And let's go ahead and add the other bobble right over here. And so same thing here, I'm just gonna place my stitch onto my hook and then pull a stitch through and onto the crochet hook, and then yarn over and pull a stitch through that stitch there, and then yarn over, pull through, and yarn over and pull through for 7 stitches on the hook right there, and then pull a stitch all the way through all 7 stitches. Again, sometimes takes a couple tries. Once you have just the 1 stitch on, you'll pull another stitch through that. You're going to find the stitch directly below the one you've been working in, and work, stitch through there. There's now 2 stitches on your hook, and then you'll pull through both. After that, you can place it right onto your knitting needle right here, and we'll have a second bobble. They're going to look a little bit uneven at the beginning, but once you pass by on the other side, it'll even up. Most of the time I have this kind of gap happening right there, right next to my crocheted bobble, and that's fine. When you make your pass back, it'll actually even out a little bit, and with blocking it will just kind of ease in. And so the row on the way back is super easy. It's just your normal purl row, and sometimes my stitch ends up a little tight for the bobble, but that's okay. That's almost to be expected. We pulled that stitch in pretty tight, and alrighty, we're at the end, and let's take a look. So there's our little bobbles. They have a slightly different appearance than knitted bobbles, and I'll be doing a knitted bobble row next, and so you can see the difference then. Alrighty.